Steve Castellano, everybody. Steve is going to give us a little bit of a walkthrough of his exciting weekend at Knobcon last weekend.
Did you say exciting or upsetting?
That's up to you. Could be both.
So, just a quick show of hands, who here has been to Knobcon? We have one? Just one. Who here has no idea what Knobcon is? A handful of people. Okay, that's good to know. So Knobcon is an annual synthesizer convention, and if you like synthesizers, if you like stickers and fridge magnets, if you think Corona is a premium alcoholic beverage, then if you've answered yes to 2 or more of those questions, Knobcon could very well be for you. It takes place in the beautiful city of Schaumburg, Illinois, which is famed for its parking lots. It's near Chicago. It's in the Chicagoland area. It is about, they say, a 15-minute cab ride from O'Hare. Fair enough.
Before you change photos, I just want to, you did post that online, and one of the comments pointed out the sign in the background. The funeral.
That was not awesome.
Many of these photos were contributed by Robin Heisey, who is unfortunately unavailable today, but he and I were kind of palling around there together. Got down on Friday and met up and kicked around Chicago for a bit. I'll have some pictures for you at the end, but a lot of the better photos in here are from Robin. But it is a 3-day-ish event from Friday to Sunday. Generally takes place second weekend of September. This was Knobcon number 11. This is the first one I've been in 8 years. I was at Knobcon 3 and 4, 8 and 9 years ago in beautiful Itasca, Illinois. It's put on by a fellow named Suit and Tie Guy. I believe his real first name is Eric. He can also be found on Facebook as Stephen Drake. I think he's trying to stay away from some people. He's trying to avoid some people who are after him, possibly. So he's pseudonymous. And basically, it is very heavily weighted toward modular stuff. It is not exclusively modular, but it is pretty much the best single event in North America if you're interested in, finding out what new releases are, what people are doing with it. We'll get to this interesting gentleman later. And it is a convention. It is extremely nerdy. There is swag. There is always a theme. This year's theme was Crank to 11. And yes, if you like the t-shirts and the swag bag full of magnets and stickers and most importantly coasters. And if you're lucky enough to run into Neil Parfit on the way, you will pick up your non-sanctioned Canadian flair for your lanyard. And then for the next 2 days you'll be asked every 5 minutes where you got it. So the first night is just a reception party. I'm not sure if this can work. I haven't tried this before. Let's just see. Maybe it won't. That's unfortunate.
No sound?
It's just not playing. And this is probably an iPad thing. But we can have a listen to that stuff later if you want to just crowd around. So the opening night is sort of an in-the-round performance. There were 5 or 6 performers. It's kind of difficult to know who's playing as everyone's all set up and sort of standing and hovering around. It took me a while to figure out these gentlemen here are operating the video synthesis because they didn't move from those seats all evening. And this is just some of the stuff that's on display for performances. And that is one of the performers. Sorry I don't have all their names, but I'll show you the Knobcon website. All this information is still up from last weekend. This young woman, I believe, goes by the name Tamix, and this gives you a clear idea of kind of the demographic of Knobcon. When I got there, the desk for registration had closed already, and I was concerned I wouldn't be able to get in without my lanyard, and I went to my hotel room and looked at myself in the mirror and in my Kraftwerk t-shirt and glasses and beard, and I thought, no, I think probably you can. The main event, which starts on Saturday, is the exhibitor room, and this is, again, one of Robin's photos, a wide-angle view of everything that's going on in there. And we'll get a walkthrough toward the end. But basically, as I said, not all modular. The sequential Oberheim had a corner booth here. I got to try out the Trigon, which Neil Parfit agrees with me, best synth, worst name. It does sound wonderful. And I'll just skim through, just as you would walk through. There's your the FACO setup. There were a few kind of running themes I found this year. Video synthesis was pretty heavy. The idea of the meta-modular, the modular modules, such as the effects boy with the pluggable, swappable effects units. And at the same time, I think it was the fact that when I don't have a picture here, was announcing online the Eurorack module that was running VCV rack in a little screen.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
4MS. Yeah, I think it was 4MS.
What was it, 4MS?
Yeah.
4MS.
Oh, right, sorry.
4MS.
Again, here are some video synth setups. I believe this is the gear that was used for the Friday night performance. And we'll just do a little walkthrough, asking about video synths. That's the exhibitor, not me, of course. There's your 5U, and again, you guys can correct me, SynthCube has acquired licenses to the MOTM stuff now that Paul Schreiber is retired, so there it is on display.
I didn't know that.
That's cool.
That's exciting for those of us who haven't quite spent all our money on Eurorack yet.
I still have some open spots in my 5U case.
Good to know. This is a new company, well, new to me, out of Germany, called Rides in the Storm. I don't know if that's just a poor translation or a clever joke that I didn't get. His stuff looks pretty interesting to me. The guy in the upper left is a single 2-oscillator voice complete with mixer. It's basically a complete semi-modular modular synth voice. He's also got an interesting 16-stage sequencer in development here. And for those who've been following along the Alan Strange book club, it has 8 separate CV outs and 8 separate gate outs. So a lot of those more interesting experiments with the Strange book are definitely possible on this machine. And again, aside from modular, some interfaces with some very old Roland rack mount stuff here on display. The Modbap stuff I liked. It's kind of Roland coloring, but very performance-oriented module stuff. You can see there's like an arcade button percussion controller there. There's a variable state filter there. Some very cool sounding stuff oriented toward dance music, which is a bit of a new incursion into what's kind of been a more kind of ambient or droney or experimental kind of electronic space at Knobcon. Here we have Industrial Music Electronics, the manufacturer formerly known as the Harvestman, with his lovely orange knobs and trypophobia photographs, just in case anyone's triggered by that. That'll be fun for them. Here's that beautiful system. If anyone, everyone's got at least one, right? Really gritty, grimy sounding stuff. I've got his Vostok filter and black locust pedal interface, but yeah, his stuff is notorious and devious. Another very interesting thing, again new to me, probably been around for a while, is the AE format. For those who find Eurorack too ungainly and large, it's a little smaller, it's a little cheaper, and most importantly for people who are doing remote stuff, performances in parks and so forth, it's very low current draw. And despite the fact that I'm getting older and having trouble with the small Eurorack knobs, there's something very appealing about this. I'll get to that guy in a bit. A bit out of order. Let's see if I can find his case. Yeah, so this guy has developed a system of EA modules that are really, they're almost hot swappable. You don't need cables or anything, and you can see the sockets are right in the bottom of this case, and you can grab his modules and just pull them out and move them around, plug them back in. It seems very handy and cute. And then if it's not quite small enough, he has the equivalent of a sort of 1U chiclet module that holds 3 of them in one little rack space. So, and you can see instead of your standard 3.5 or banana jacks, it's patched with breadboard jumpers. So really cute, if not entirely practical for everyone. I'll just keep scrolling through here. There's a separate exhibitor room for exhibitors who are triggered by too many exhibitors. This company is called This Is Noise. It's based out of Southern Ontario. For me, this was the impulse purchase of the weekend. These little guys, 12-button 2-controller Bluetooth device, which is very handy for controlling an iOS device or anything that receives the Bluetooth. It's surprisingly low latency. The secret being it's not transmitting audio over Bluetooth, it's just transmitting MIDI signals, so bits basically. And the latency is below 10 milliseconds, maybe not great for performing a concerto, but certainly cool and fun enough for say a T-Mon gig. They also make a D-Beam style optical controller here called the MIDI Blaster. Another big thing this year has been the return of the performance mixer. This guy excited me a great deal. It is 8 channels of stereo plus 2 stereo aux sends, digital controls. You can memorize up to 8 patch setups and switch between them. You can even invert your display, which essentially inverts the entire mixer, so you can use it for demonstrations or depending on what kind of cameras you have set up for your show. It's very cool. It is not super cheap. It is about $1,000 US, but again, just one of many performance mixers that showed up on the tables this weekend. Even the virtual VCD rack made an appearance. There's Zlav modular, and again, I don't remember all the names of them. There's a complete AE style setup with a Euclidean trigger sequencer there, that pretty LED guy down the bottom. More AE and a slightly different faceplate. This is and I don't know a lot about this setup, but it certainly gets a lot of attention. This is the modular setup of a fellow named Wanitone. And you'll actually, if you look closely, recognize some familiar modules, but they're mostly DIY modules created in soup cans and so forth. And it's really quite a striking presentation. If you look closely in there, you can see the grades. Anyway.
He's using RCA cables for patching.
Yeah, it looks like RCA cables and licorice flavored gum.
Yeah.
Oh, well, and then probably Tutti Frutti in there too, I think. Another,
unique.
sorry?
It's unique.
Yeah, it does get everyone's attention. Another ongoing trend is because it's so easy to get manufacturing overseas done for this sort of thing. No one gives out business cards anymore. All the business cards are PCBs or occasionally panel blanks. So in addition to your fridge magnets and your stickers and your T-shirts and your Corona, you can generally walk away with some interesting DIY toys or at least some panel blanks for free. This is an interesting controller. These little brass knobs, in addition to the arcade-style buttons, are touch sensitive. He's got and assignable, of course. It's got a built-in sample player engine, which is probably my least favorite thing about it. But the buttons themselves are touch sensitive, and these 6 over here on the right are set up to. Wait, you can see that clearly now. Are set up as a strum controller. So a very interesting approach. Here is Roland representing with the 8 BBD devices in a box ultimate retro delay machine, the DM101. That lists, I think, for about $450 US, so not inexpensive, but still pretty cool. The landscape people, about whom I know very little, an almost incomprehensible touch plate-based glitch machine, which seems inspired very much by Bukla's control systems.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's lovely and fun to play. I couldn't get a tune out of it, but I don't think perhaps that's the point.
I think that one's supposed to be a drum machine.
Yeah.
A passive drum machine that responds to the
Passively powered, powered by the actual connections into it, which is really cool.
It's living off me then?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absorbing your energy.
And I don't know how to make this guy work really. Again, I do have a video walkthrough that Robin did. I'll just have to, I think he shared it online, so I can point people to it. Also, there are performances, of course. You got a lot of musicians there. Most of the people who are doing lectures and workshops are also performing. This was the Saturday night chill-out room, which unfortunately didn't have a bar, so no Corona there. And then Saturday night after the big banquet, there's a banquet. I should say a few words about it. I like the food. Not everyone likes the food. The beverage alcohol is entirely substandard. And there's a keynote speaker every year. This year it was a fellow named Doug McKechnie, who I hadn't heard of, but apparently has the honor of being the first person to perform live on a modular synthesizer at Altamont in 1969. And then afterwards, after the banquet, there are a few concurrent performances going on in various rooms, and also a bunch of nerds hanging out in this hotel doing really nerdy stuff. This gentleman had one of those sound devices, you may have heard of it, that records a speaker and projects sort of a chowder version of what they're saying back at them. It's great for disrupting speeches and basically annoying people. He was offering $100 US to anyone who could read a paragraph from one of the Passion Tweet books while this thing was pointed at them. And although a couple people did eventually take all his money away, it took quite a while. And this is the bar area of the lovely Hyatt Regency, where I spent half an hour waiting for what I believe may be the world's shortest bourbon sour. It cost me $15. Happily, I was playing with some of my toys at the bar and made some friends and got invited up to this room full of Gen Z folks just making strange noises with some synths that they bought. And one fella, in fact, was quite intoxicated and challenged me to make sound with this incomprehensible Hikari setup. And I got it to make sound. I didn't get it to do anything that I wanted it to, and he proclaimed proudly, it won't do it. Whatever you want it to do, it'll do something else. That's what it does. So he was pretty happy. Kilpatrick Audio was also there. I love this guy. This is a 6 joystick controller for the Google style system. It's lovely, it feels wonderful and smooth, and I think cost $2,300. Even with a 25% off Knobcon sale, I was not walking home with that, but great to see Andrew building crazy cool stuff. And of course, there are lectures and workshops. This is a woman named Shanda. She is an innovation product specialist. She's talking about one of their devices in a Saturday afternoon workshop. On the Sunday, I amazingly found a guy who was talking about vast synthesis, which is an interest of mine. Seemed a bit out of place at Knobcon, but I was happy to hear what he had to say. And of course, the keynote speaker, Doug McKechnie, who performed, I think, for 30 seconds at Altamont in 1969, the infamous festival, before he had the plug pulled on him by no less a mythical figure than Owsley Stanley, the subject of Kid Charlemagne, sound man for the Grateful Dead, and prolific chemist and producer of LSD. There he is with the host, suit and tie guy, at their lecture. His lecture was a little bit sleepy, but I was quite pleased that he chose to continually refer to Knobcon attendees as children of the knob. And of course, you go to Knobcon to meet old friends. Here's our good pal Dustin Good, who and I hadn't realized until I talked to him. I haven't seen him in a while. He doesn't live in Toronto anymore. But here he is repping the rolling gear. And of course, because he's Dustin, he's got his own little portable Euro set up there as well. Great to see him again. And you can run into lots of famous and interesting people. This is Dina Perlman with our friend Robin Heisey, of course, daughter of the late Alan R. Perlman of Park. And here is Robin with DivKit Ben, the prolific YouTube synth module reviewer. And once this is all over on Sunday, you can stop by the lovely Woodfield Mall, and you can buy some Crocs because you can wear shoes walking around the convention center. And then you can catch a train down to the Chicago Art Institute. That's a little joke. You can't actually take a train directly to the Art Institute. You have to take either a 45-minute bus or an Uber to the Rosemont L station, and then the Chicago Art Institute's another 40 minutes. But in exchange for using his wonderful pictures, Robin insisted that I plug the Art Institute, which he took me to on Friday. If you know Robin, he's a great expert on art, and the Art Institute itself is a world-class museum and pretty fun and fantastic. And then afterwards you can have some martinis and hang out with your girlfriends and smoke cigars. The whole thing, I would say moderately priced. Some would flinch at the banquet costing $75, but the t-shirts a steal at $20, the event itself is $45, and the service, such as it was, is a $3 service fee. Thoughts, questions, comments?
Do you personally find Corona to be a premium beer?
Oh gosh, no.
No.
But happily, there's a Trader Joe's just down the block, so I loaded up on some Session IPA and California Shard, some crackers and cheese, and some soft red liquor, so I was set.
And a legitimate question, what was your high low? What was your most exciting thing that you saw? What was like maybe something you're like, whatever?
Most exciting thing? I don't know. It's all pretty exciting, really. That passive drum module was pretty cute. The sequential synth, I've been longing to play that for a while. I know there's probably some kicking around the city, but I think it's just an overall impression. It's great. It's a great energy. It's a really positive and friendly crowd. And if you guys know me, I'm not a super extroverted guy, but it's pretty easy to meet and make new friends there. I think the low point this year, there were 7 lectures, 4 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and the upside of that is that you don't have to worry too much about FOMO picking one over another, because they were all sort of running sequentially rather than concurrently. But I found the quality of the lectures this year to be, there wasn't a ton that was appealing. I like hearing someone talk about VAST, but the problem with talking about VAST is you just fill the room full of VAST experts who know more, or at least as much about VAST as the guy in the presentation. But it's all a great vibe. It's all very well intentioned. So yeah, probably the beverage alcohol is a little.
Can I squeeze in one more?
Sure.
Can you tell us anything about fast synthesis? Because I've never really heard about that.
Oh,
is
that's
that a whole other presentation.
It's a whole other presentation.
Yeah.
This guy talked for an hour on it, but
Okay.
that's the Kurzweil K2000 through PC3K or PC3 systems. It's their synth architecture. So kind of, it's a bit arcane at this point. It's 40 years old, but and kind of niche. So I was sort of pleasantly surprised to see it there.
I'll have to buy you a premium beer and pick your mind on it.
I welcome that opportunity.
Awesome.
And I'm going to try this and see if it works. Hopefully not overstaying my welcome. But
I think you have another question, Steve.
oh, sorry. Yes.
Was it two of us or just me? Okay. Was there anything that you regret not buying?
I regret not buying all of it. I got pretty close to my duty-free limit. I think I spent about $500. I got this guy that was lovely, a utility stand that seemed like perfect for a key step and an octatrack, which I have. I always stop by the Earthquaker Devices guys. Their pedals are mono, but they're really cool, and I couldn't help but walk away with one of their reverb things. And there's lots of cool stuff. I would have loved to have one of those Kirkpatrick controllers. I would have loved to have a Trigon, and maybe one day. So I'm going to very quickly see if I actually flew back Monday and was so excited with this little toy that I had a 2-hour nap and went down to T-Mob and did a last end of night set improv with this. So it's not Dark Side of the Moon, but it could get you invited to a sweet party on Saturday night.
Everyone, less hard time. Questions for Les?
Were most of your drum sounds coming from the black box?
Most of it's from the analog 4,
Oh wow.
which is like my favorite drum machine.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be a synthesizer, but I love it as a percussion maker. It's so fun programming sounds with it.
Nice. Yeah, they all sounded like they were on the verge of breaking or something. It was
Yeah,
a
yeah,
big
for sure.
tension filter.
Yeah.
What does the joystick do?
The joystick? Oh, on here?
Yeah.
It's assignable, I guess. So,
Is that a work stat?
Mini-Log XD. Desktop version. Super versatile.
What's it sort of, what's its sound engine? Is it sample based? Is it synthesis?
The Mini-Log?
Yeah.
It's got 2 analog oscillators and then a digital user oscillator, which you can load different things from, like people program them and you can download them. There's different designers sell oscillators, so you can have up to 16 user ones.
Cool. Running simultaneously or just stored all together?
Stored all together. You get one at a time.
Gotcha. So is it 3, 4 parts, sort of simultaneous, like multi-timbre?
3 parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, the range of sounds I can get on that thing is amazing.
Really huge, yeah. And is there a keyboard in it? It seemed like you were playing some chords.
Oh, it's got a sequencer, sort of an octave and a half.
Okay.
That's either for inputting data or you can switch it to keyboard mode. So I have been playing it as a keyboard. I kind of wish I had bought the keyboard version, but I was I just like the aesthetic of the desktop. So, but it also limits the amount of like it stops me from using like muscle memory of keyboards, which I actually like that. So it forces me to just play less notes.
Sure. And was there something sequencing that? Like was the mini log doing the sequencing, or the analog 4, or something else?
They each nothing was sequenced on the Minilog XD.
Okay.
I ran a couple sequences off the black box.
Oh, the black box,
which
okay.
I mostly use for like one shots and some. I like the granular engine on it.
Yeah.
So there's some, just sort of ambient sounds coming up for that.
But it was providing the clock to everything else, was it?
No, none of the clocks are synced actually. So most of the bread and butter is from the analog 4. Okay. And the rest of the stuff just kind of accompanies it. The way I'm using it. Sure. It could all be done differently.
I just want to compliment the sounds, the construction and the composition. I just thought it was very fresh and very compelling.
Agreed. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Yeah, so you had like different stuff, like different tempos, so it's kind of like polyrhythmic effect, I guess, at the end, because you had a drum sequence and you had like boom, 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 but that didn't follow. It wasn't like lining up, right? It's just like its own polyrhythmic thing, or was it lining up? I can't remember.
You mean like the lead synth part towards
it was
the
just a drone that was like and it didn't really line up with the drums, which was cool. I like that. I mean, it was intentional, right? To have two different sequences playing different tempos, or was it all lining up?
I'm
wasn't really
pretty unintentional about my intentionalness.
Okay.
So my favorite thing about Electron boxes is that you can have sequences of different lengths, and there's notes can fire at different probability rates and stuff like that. So
those differences are coming.
Yes,
all from the
some of that happens just as a result of messing
yeah,
with
with the
the
different lengths. Yeah.
So there's phasing, but there's not tempo lock between the.
Oh, it's all tempo lock for sure, but yeah. But I didn't like the tempos of the things that ran off the black box were, I think, slightly different than the.
Than the Electron.
Yeah, there were things sort of firing at random, anyways, fairly sparsely, so it wasn't dependent on that.
Yeah, that's actually a cool thing to try to explore in electronic music, right? Because you have so many different sequences all going at different tempos and different meters, which it's harder to do human. You want to always lock into the beat sometimes. It's hard to intentionally play two different sequences at different tempos.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool. Yeah. And if you ever got a monologue, you can route your monologue keyboard because it has polyphony on the keyboard maybe out into the MIDI log and it look like to go together.
Yeah, I do actually have a monologue, and I have used the monologue as a controller.
Yeah, it's a good controller.
Yeah.
That's cool. Cool, yeah, I enjoyed it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, very tasty. All right, next up we have Eugene playing his awesome DIY. What was clocking all that, Eugene?
The disting. Yeah, that's the only thing I haven't built something satisfactory.
Of course, that's the thing I guess first, right? So.
Yeah.
And what were the different voices? Sounded like you had a couple of three.
Yeah, three. Yeah. So the dysmetria is the sort of the sequences with the long loops, right? So to generate that sort of bumpy bass that sort of came in and out, that was a cellular automata module, which generates random gates. I put that to trigger the notes, and also used its CV random out to trigger the quantizer, which then I fed into the attenuverter so I can modify it as it goes. So I could lower the pitch, raise the pitch, and I could change the breadth of the notes. So like it got to be just a very tight couple of notes, or it could be a very wide, low to high. That went through that, so that's playing through like a sine wave to wave shaper. That's the sound. And then I used a low pass gate to make the bird sounds. Its CVN was pinged very quickly by the Rampage, like a very fast alpha type thing. And that went through the delay no more, so we could use some delays. And then when I took the CD out and just played it and let it ring, and then that went through the delay, and then I messed around with that a bit. The drums are from the Pocket Operator 32 tonic. And one more thing, occasionally you would hear this little sound in there. That was the burst module being triggered to play a couple of bursts of just pink noise really quickly. So the gate of it, which is open the VCA and just really quick. It has a probability, so it doesn't happen every cycle. When it's triggered, it may play or may not play. So it was about like 20%. So you hear it sometimes.
So in the second half, like after there was like a little bit of silence, and then it started again, and toward the end of that second half, you had this really wonderful kind of bubbling bass thing that was just sort of came up, bubbled up underneath it. This was really great.
Well, thank you. I did play around with the Rampage a little bit. You hear that, sometimes you hear like it would go like with the bass notes, so that's just changing the rise and fall of the envelope as it goes.
Rampage is a trigger.
Rampage is kind of like a maths. Okay. So it's like it's an envelope generator. So there's two of them side by side.
And do the sides interact with each other? Or
They can. You can patch it into each other. There's a central comparator section which will compare A, B, and then it'll output various things as well. It's fun. That's the newest one to me, and it's the most complex, right? So I'm still trying to use it for more than just the envelopes. But yeah.
It's a great module, that one.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to put all of your various different modules that you had in that case together?
Well, I started last summer with the dysmetria, and then I've just been slowly building. It's probably picked up speed the last, I would say, since the spring, summer of this year. So, yeah. Anyway.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
That was really great to have the two very different sections without actually repatching.
I just stopped the clock, actually, and then just like, okay, well, and then you pick it up again. So, yeah.
Do you have any tips for the calibration testing process in real life?
I mean, when you're building your own DUI, I built a module tester unit from Musical Instruments because they, on their website, they like, how are we going to test all our modules that we designed? So they designed a module tester, which is open source, but I bought a kit from, I don't know, UK, one of those places, Busherman or Thonk or somewhere. And they can't call it the module tester, so they call it something noodle toaster or something, I don't know. Anyway, so I built that kit. So it's very handy. It has like CV out, CV ins, gate out, gate in, so at least you can have something to patch into your module as you're checking it out to see if everything works.
Just like full per octave.
Yeah, it does. It does
VCO.
little rocket. It'll put out like an arpeggio, so you
Yeah.
can like use it if you're testing VCO. And then of course a good multimeter and a good oscilloscope, or a decent oscilloscope.
I recommend that modular tester really highly.
Mhm.
It's got all the test signals that you need with LED display, but most importantly, it's a power supply.
Yes.
So you don't have to
Yeah.
take your DIY module and plug it into your $10,000 rack. You can just
Yeah.
try it on its own
Yeah.
with your.
That's actually what I
module
printed this
tester.
for. This is what this does. So the modules sit on there. I plug it into the tester, and then I do all my stuff.
That's a good tip.
And Eugene, is any of your music online, and if so, where can we find it?
Yes, I'm on Bandcamp. I guess Be Kind Make Music is my tag, so you can find me on Instagram, Be Kind Make Music, and you can find my link tree or whatever in there. So.
For this set, we've got Scott and Steven doing stuff on neurons. Neutrons.
Yeah, neutrons.
Those things.
Right, well, thank you, neurons.
So this was a patch that Stephen has been talking to me about on Neutron for a few months, and I think the way you described it was, I have no idea how it works.
I don't have no idea how it works, but it's an evolution of it. But for the someone mentioned the Allen Strange book club, and the thing I tried to do from that relates to the previous chapter was taking the LFO unipolar and then putting it into the inverter patch, and then sending the inverted signal to the LFO shape. So kind of, and that was, I think there's a paragraph in Allen Strange saying, why would you want unipolar, why would you want, and then put the unipolar into the inverter, and then you get the kind of, the underneath on top.
Go to the wrong side.
And you're inside the upside down, and then it sounds like a bunch of dying cats.
And one of the exercises in chapter 6, is that where I'm, chapter 5 or chapter 6? Chapter 6.
Chapter 6.
Thank you.
Right.
Is a way to analyze patches that you approach. It has a great acronym, something like reasonable or something like that. I forget what the acronym is. Anyway. And so Stephen had sent me a picture of this, of really just the patch itself. So I pulled out my Neutron and I've got to try this exercise on it. It made no sense. I had no more idea what I was done than I did before. What it actually required was that actually the thing about the Neutron is it's a semi-normalized module, right? So it's already, pull all the patch cables out and it's already got a signal path and everything is ready to go. So what I had to do actually to start getting any insight to it, what was going on, is actually print out the block diagram of the normalized synth without the patch, without the patch cables in, and even then I barely scratched the surface. So tomorrow we actually have a book club, and I'm thinking of bringing my Neutron and going through that reasonable or whatever the heck the methodology is, and see if we can actually figure it out. That's it.
The wrap-out approach to electronic instrument configuration, which stands for Reasonable Analytical Procedure for Observing Usable Techniques.
Fantastic.
Wrap-out.
I don't go anywhere without the book now.
I've got it as well. I'm just not as quick as pulling it up as you. So yeah, I actually tried to walk through this with wrap-out, and like I said, I didn't. So,
well, it's like the first thing you learn. Like it's weird. One of the things that normalized is that the oscillators actually go through the overdrive, and so that one patch there, which is like what VCF1 into VCA-in, just bypasses the overdrive. It's fine to just use the overdrive, but then you get kind of overdrive noise. Not like this is short on noise or anything, but when you're doing clean sounding stuff, but that's a weird thing. I don't know why they normalized it that way. Yeah. And I don't know why. I wish someone would ever explain to me why. The thing that seems to trigger all my generative patches is the delay. Once the delay is involved, I have a generative patch. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything.
Well, with sufficient feedback and short enough time, you start to get that kind of ringing, that car plus
Right.
strong kind of ringing.
But I mean, I get no noise at all until
Oh, so
something.
you actually turn it up?
Yeah, until I have the delay going. And
I
this,
think your unit may behave a little differently than mine as
You
well.
think?
Yeah, I don't know, because it was producing sound pretty consistently throughout all modes. The only time it sort of stopped making noise, which I was kind of grateful for, was when LFO rate, drops too low.
yes,
And that was actually one of the fun things, is because you could actually get kind of percussive clicking sounds with the LFO rate low enough, sort of below, almost subsonic really.
yeah.
I have a question.
Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of that's beyond my understanding, but.
All the
I'd
bass
like to-
guitars.
It's completely beyond mine. I don't know why these work.
The question is this,
Yeah.
were you sending him and then you manipulating the sound? Or were you doing two separate sound sources?
Two separate sound sources.
So my question is, with this environment that you don't really have a lot of, like, which is wonderful.
Understanding
from
of it.
Chat GPT. Did you guys know what sounds you were making? Or was it like, I'm making the sounds and when I'm not controlling it, oh, maybe he's making it? Was that the case here?
One thing I'll say is that doing it with Scott and also having his effects things going, I didn't know which sounds I was making and which ones he was making. So I couldn't necessarily go, oh, I'm so glad I made that sound. I'm not sure which one of us it was
So
coming
it's
from.
like you need to monitor, a headset monitor your own stuff so that you can integrate it without wondering about
Yeah.
that. I mean-
Maybe, but I sort of like the confusion.
Yeah.
There's a display, this
Yeah.
this thing here is just a delay, just a digital delay, that's all it is. And it had Stephen was coming in on the right channel, I was coming in on the left channel, and the meters show the signal levels right to left.
So you could see.
So I could actually see, and the vast majority of the time, it was actually Stephen. And when you saw me sort of tinkering with this box up above, I was effectively processing him.
Yeah.
Most of what I did was, and I practiced this a little bit in advance, because when doing improvisational, I found when doing improvisational performance, it's really important to kind of know where you're going to fit in, if the mix, if nothing else. And I mean, in the case of sort of more conventional instruments, you have some sense of the sonority, so you kind of know what, oh yeah, I'm hitting a cymbal, I know that's me. So what I did was I specifically singled out the low frequency sounds. So you heard a lot of ooh, I had been practicing that in advance, and then I went even lower when it started to make the ticking sound. So a little bit of the percussive element was, I specifically.
So you could
did
see
that.
what he was doing.
I could, it's not so much I could see what he was doing, I could see the knobs, but.
No, but on your.
Oh yeah, what I could see is I could see his channel.
You could see his
and,
channel.
Yeah, and so
Oh,
what
okay,
happens
so
routine.
that-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, I get
As
it.
long
Yeah.
as one of you could see
Yeah.
somebody's.
Yeah.
that was it.
Right, yeah, because if you actually turn the LFO rate low, then you get this kind of clicking or thumping or kind of thing. I mean, you turn it up, it's like the invasion of the Daleks kind of
Yeah.
sort of.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
so we did have an opportunity a little bit to gauge. Again, we've done sort of group jams before, and that really that's exactly it. You got your cans on. You're going, is that me? Is that me? Am I making that sound? Is that me? And I don't much care for that. I mean, it's kind of the net effect is great, but I don't really know if I've actually contributed to it. And perhaps more importantly, you can't really respond to the other performer if you don't actually know what it is that you're putting out there, right? So the good news is.
Okay.
Stephen knew what he was doing, and I just sort of could turn it off every once in a while. So anyway,
Before you leave, there's another question.
oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, in what I would call the third movement, there was this lovely bass voice that came and swept up kind of from subsonic and had these upper partials sort of crackling in and out, and I thought when I heard it, that I would ask you guys what was doing that and how it was done, but I feel like you're not gonna be able to tell me.
I can tell you what knob it is, but there is a venti chai pumpkin spice latte with sprinkles. If somebody can actually figure this patch out by the wrap out method,
Well,
because it's I mean, I think we have a general sense of what it is, but the interactions between the noise and the LFO on itself is kind of what seems to make it a bit chaotic. But the short answer was I think most of the low frequency stuff was the stuff I was doing. So.
Does this mean that you guys are gonna have to become roommates now, because if you unpatch it, you're never gonna be able to recreate this patch again,
Yeah.
right?
Well, fortunately, we've taken pictures and we've exchanged
Oh, okay.
pictures, so at least we'll know where we can put the cables back in,
Yeah.
but knowing which of the knobs is, with the knob
That's
position
probably a better
is-
plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah. Okay, thanks very much.
Yeah, and I guess I'll start playing something. So just to kind of preface, I've had this Cosmos now for a couple of years, I think, and I really like it in its standard configuration. But I came across some videos earlier this week of somebody using the alternate firmware for it that really kind of captured my attention, and I thought, I should probably give it a try. I've known about it for a while. I should give it a try. So that's what I'm doing tonight, or today, this afternoon. It's not tonight yet. I'm playing around with that firmware. It is more of a regular looper that does metered things, and my time is not the greatest at the best of times. So it'll be bad looping, but it'll be fun.
No, you're good.
I was gonna ask, what's that tiny pedal, right beside the solo thing?
That one?
Yeah.
That's the Ventress.
Oh, that's a nice one.
It is. It is. It's got some nice toys in it.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
I just have one question. How'd you do all that?
A lot of the hard work is done in here and in here. The playing is pretty easy as long as you can play in time, or when you decide you don't want to play in time, you're making it intentional. If you're not playing in time and it's not intentional, it sounds like shit. Yeah, go
Do you
ahead.
find the alternate firmware easier to predict or compose with? Or is it still quite surprising?
It's different.
Yeah.
The different algorithms do different things. I didn't go into any of the more granular stuff that's in there, kind of purposely, because I wanted to stay more towards the less digital. And I was really interested in playing around with driving some distortion out of it and some saturation and that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
It's funny, it started out and I thought, wow, what nice, clean, pure sounds for an MS-20 to make. And then everything changed.
Then we changed it, yeah. Yeah, but the drive on this box here, the Soma drive is just, it's amazing. It's amazing. I have the Lyra and the Pulsar 23 as well, and I think it's the same drive on all of them, and it's really nice. But just in case you were thinking of getting one of these boxes, they're amazing. They're not that expensive, actually, surprisingly. And if you have two of them, they've got firmware so that you can do them in quad, which is interesting and also tempting. The firmware upgrade is very simple. You just you have a FAT32 formatted USB drive and you put it in the root folder. As long as there's only one firmware in there, you go and turn it off, turn it on while you're pressing the record button. The firmware flashes and then it comes up. Good. Yeah.
We should talk to Matt and see if maybe we can do quad sometime.
That'd be cool.
That thingamajig there that I've got does quad.
Yeah.
And I think I've heard from some other people as well here that they've got some quad stuff, so maybe we should do a theme.
That would be cool, yeah.
So
Do a quad day.
Have fun.
Yeah, he's got monitors back there.
Yeah, so another set.
Yeah.
On board to do it. So.
All right.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.